As the sun began to set on the dusty desert town of Santa Fe, John packed the last of his gear into the trunk of his beat-up Ford Mustang. He was a man on a mission, and there was no time to waste. John had spent the past year tracking the notorious crime lord, Manuel Sanchez, across the Southwest. Sanchez was wanted for everything from drug trafficking to murder, and the bounty on his head was worth a small fortune. John had finally caught a break when he received a tip that Sanchez would be passing through Santa Fe on his way to Mexico. John knew this was his chance to take down Sanchez and finally bring him to justice. He climbed into the driver's seat of his Mustang and started the engine. As he pulled out onto the empty desert highway, he couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. This was it, the moment he had been waiting for. John floored the accelerator, the Mustang's engine roaring as he raced towards his destiny. As he drove, John couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. He had been a bounty hunter for long enough to know when something was off, and his instincts were telling him that Sanchez wasn't going to be as easy to take down as he had hoped. Despite his reservations, John pressed on. He had come too far to turn back now. As he approached the outskirts of Santa Fe, John spotted a group of shady-looking characters hanging around a dilapidated warehouse on the side of the road. He slowed the Mustang as he passed, taking a closer look. That's when he saw him. Manuel Sanchez, the man he had been chasing for the past year. John's heart raced as he pulled the Mustang over to the side of the road. He grabbed his gear and stepped out of the car, his hand instinctively moving to the pistol at his side. He was ready for whatever came next. As he approached the warehouse, John could hear the sound of voices coming from inside. He knew he had to move quickly if he was going to take Sanchez by surprise. He edged closer to the warehouse, his gun drawn. Just as he was about to make his move, the door to the warehouse burst open, and a group of Sanchez's henchmen came barreling out. John knew he was outnumbered, but he wasn't about to back down. He raised his gun and fired, taking out the first henchman with a single shot to the chest. The others scattered, running for cover as John advanced on them. This was it, the showdown he had been waiting for. John was ready to take down Sanchez once and for all, no matter what the cost. John fought like a man possessed, taking down one henchman after another as he made his way toward Sanchez. The crime lord tried to make a run for it, but John was too fast for him. He tackled Sanchez to the ground, the two men rolling around in the dirt as they struggled for control. Finally, with a mighty roar, John overpowered Sanchez and pinned him to the ground. The crime lord let out a string of curses as John handcuffed him and read him his rights. "You're under arrest, Sanchez," John growled. "You're going to pay for all the lives you've ruined." As he led Sanchez away in handcuffs, John couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction wash over him. He had finally brought one of the most dangerous men in the Southwest to justice, and he knew that his efforts would make a difference in the lives of countless people. As he drove away from the warehouse, John knew that he had a long road ahead of him, but he was ready for whatever came his way. As John made his way back to civilization with Sanchez in tow, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. He had finally brought one of the most dangerous men in the Southwest to justice, and he knew that his efforts would make a difference in the lives of countless people. When they arrived at the police station, John handed Sanchez over to the authorities and collected his well-deserved bounty. He knew that the money would come in handy, but it wasn't what mattered most to him. It was the sense of justice and righteousness that came with taking down a dangerous criminal like Sanchez. After finishing up the paperwork and making sure that Sanchez was properly processed, John headed back to his hotel room to get some much-needed rest. He had been on the road for weeks, and he was exhausted. As he lay down on the bed, John couldn't help but smile as he thought about the events of the past few days. He had finally achieved his goal, and he knew that he had made a real difference in the world. Despite the long and difficult journey he had been on, John knew that it had all been worth it. He was a bounty hunter, and he would always be on the hunt for justice. The end.